So the marketplace for former All-Star point guards is beginning to heat up just days after the Atlanta Hawks traded Trae Young to the Washington Wizards. We now have word that the Memphis Grizzlies are ready to move on from Ja Morant. ESPN first reporting this development. I've been told the same thing. The Grizzlies, who have struggled the last couple of seasons for a variety of reasons, seem ready to embrace the youth movement in Memphis and look at options for their former All-Star point guard. So let's look at this and see what those options are for Memphis. And let's start with the contract of Ja Morant, which is not a bad contract by NBA star standards. He's due to make $39 million for the rest of this year. It jumps to $42 million next year, and then around $45 million in the final year of his deal. Big numbers, certainly, but not untradeable numbers when you think about where NBA salaries are and where they're going over the next few years. The real problem with Ja Morant is his availability or lack of availability over the last few years. Morant has played in just 18 games this season. He's currently out of the lineup with an injury. Over the last 3 seasons, he has played in just 77 games. Some of that has been injury related. Some of that has been league and team suspension related. These are red flags for teams that are evaluating Ja Morant. And when I talk to scouts that watch the Grizzlies over the last couple of years, one thing that comes up is that Ja Morant just has not been the same explosive player he was earlier in his career. He's still pretty young, just 26 years old, but you go back to 22 to 23, he was dynamic. He was an MVP candidate. He was fearless going to the lane. I think maybe the combination of injuries and the risk reward of attacking the basket like he did, it just has changed him some as a player. And teams that I've talked to, scouts that I've talked to, think that is something that to be worried about with Ja Morant moving forward. So Memphis, they're putting this out there that they're ready to talk to teams about Ja Morant. And obviously they're looking for a pretty big haul. I mean, Morant at one point was an MVP candidate. He looked like a face of the franchise type of guy. But the reality is that most of the teams I've talked to said that the Grizzlies probably shouldn't expect a return that's better than what the Hawks got for Trae Young, which is a good, solid, useful rotation player in CJ McCollum, a interesting but not elite young player in Corey Kispert. No draft picks changed hands in that Atlanta-Washington deal. And there's a sense out there right now that that's probably the value that Memphis can get back in return for Ja Morant. Mostly because the marketplace isn't wide right now for Morant. I mean, there are teams out there that are certainly thinking long and hard about making a play for Ja Morant. There are teams that might make some sense for Ja. I mean, if you look at Sacramento, they are in need of a star, especially a star at the point guard position. They haven't had one, since De'Aaron Fox exited. Could the Kings consider making a move? We know they're talking about breaking up that team with Zach LaVine available, maybe Domantas Sabonis available, maybe DeMar DeRozan available. I mean, a lot of people in Sacramento are available. That's a team to keep your eye on with Ja Morant. Minnesota, Minnesota gets talked about a lot. I'm not sure how they get there financially. I mean, moving off Rudy Gobert doesn't make sense for the Timberwolves. Can they combine some guys together to get to that point? I don't know. I mean, they could certainly use a playmaker at that position, but I think it'll be difficult for the Timberwolves to get there. Miami's kind of interesting. The Heat have not shown any fear in the past about taking a swing at a troubled star. We've seen them do it multiple times before, most recently with Jimmy Butler, and having a lot of success with Jimmy Butler down in Miami. His personality and the volatility about it, fit with the Heat. They were willing to handle all that. They were able to handle all that. And, Miami could be a place that could fit the personality of Ja Morant. And they also need a star at that position. They can put some pieces together to make the money work to get to Ja Morant. Now, it's not a great fit for the way the Heat are playing right now. We saw him this past offseason. The Heat completely reinvented its offense to go from a pick and roll heavy offense to one that is a lot of movement and a lot of quick shot clock shots. It's interesting. Miami is running an offense now that was put together in part by Noah LaRoche, who is an innovator of this kind of offensive system. Noah LaRoche was part of the coaching staff, part of the offensive coaching staff in Memphis a year ago. That was with Taylor Jenkins, which got fired, because Ja Morant didn't like playing in that particular brand of offense. So that has to be taken into consideration. But I think Miami could be a team that could be interested in Ja Morant over these next few weeks, or maybe even into the next offseason. But the reality with Morant is that while a few years ago, he would have been an in-demand type of player that could have returned young players, draft picks, a really big haul for a team like Memphis. Now, he's just not as sought after as he once was. Teams are not looking to gut their roster, trade away valuable draft capital for a smallish point guard who is a one-way player. He's not a great defensive player, a one-way player who has not been available for the last 3 years. He's battled injury issues over the last 3 years. So it's a complicated deal for the Memphis Grizzlies to put together. But it does signal a pretty significant change in Memphis. For years, the Grizzlies have publicly and privately stood by Ja Morant, said he is their franchise player. Now it seems like Memphis is ready to move on from Ja Morant.